Welcome to the Why Not podcast, where we explore new ways of living and learn new things. I'm Bowen, joined by my great friend Parsa, and today we'll be discussing our self-experimentation, investigating the effect of meditation on our overall well-being. We'll be discussing the scientific literature on meditation before talking about our own subjective experiences meditating for a month. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, and I pay my respect to the elders past, present, and emerging.
Okay, so here we are today. We've done 3 weeks of meditating, about 13 minutes each day. Bowen has done his. How did you do yours usually?
In the morning, typically, as part of my morning routine.
Yeah, mine was a bit more spread out.
Yeah.
I did it in the morning sometimes during my breaks while studying, sometimes at night, just before I fell asleep. So mine was more of a varying meditation kind of thing, which gives perspective on both if you're to do it at at a specific time during the day, or if you're to do it different times, just a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
We also looked at some researches.
Yes.
Like you mentioned before, we did some analysis of the literature of what the meditation research is suggesting.
Yes.
About how long you should meditate, when you should meditate, what meditation helps with, how does it affect our brain structure, when it comes to like treating mental health diseases or such as trauma, PTSD, reducing pain,
all the questions you can think of for meditation.
All of that.
We tried to answer it.
We looked at quite a few research papers, and we summarized most of them. We will look at some more in depth than the other ones, but that pretty much concludes what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah. Without further ado, let's go into what the science has to say about meditation.
Starting with our literature research.
Yeah. So I'll start with the definition of mindfulness meditation, which I found on the APA Dictionary of Psychology, APA American Psychological Association. I'll just quote the definition. Mindfulness meditation, which is the one we did, is a type of meditation in which a person focuses attention on their breathing and thoughts, feelings, and sensations are experienced freely as they arise. On the same dictionary, they also have concentrative meditation, which is another type. We didn't decide to do it. Mindfulness meditation, I think, has more research. It's more applicable probably for most people.
Much well studied.
For us, as well. So just putting it out there, concentrative meditation is something else that exists, but it's not going to be the focus of our discussion, our experiment.
Should probably also mention with the mindfulness meditation, there's like the guided meditation, the non-guided meditation, and how they might differ. We did not guided meditation, so there was no audio or anything telling us what to focus on and to bring our attention back to it. It was just us sitting down with our thoughts, with our feelings, trying to focus on our breathing. That was what we did. We'll talk about guided as well a little bit, perhaps, and then how that might help at the very start when you start. I feel like if people are just starting to get into meditation, it's good to start with guided meditation.
I agree with that,
And that would kind of help them ease into meditation, and then they can decide whether they want to continue guided meditation or switch to not guided meditation, which has its own benefits and downsides. One of the most benefits of guided is the fact that someone's telling you what to put your attention on. But that very same thing is also a disadvantage because you're paying attention to their voice, which takes away some of the value of what you're meditating for.
And you're relying on the presence of that voice guiding you.
Exactly. But at the start, it's good to have someone guiding you through the whole process.
Obviously, it's a very individual and personal choice. So I think later we'll get into the details of all of that. And when we talk about our history of meditating, what we've done in the past, and why we did things the way we did this time around. So continue on with the science and what it has to say. Why you might think why meditation is important, what established benefits are there, because it seems in the media will be saying it's this just practice that allows everything to all come together. Exactly.
But that's not the case.
It's not
much of a gray area than people think it is.
Yeah.
We would just say it's like a miracle. You do it.
Yeah.
You see all these type of benefits.
Yeah.
but it's much more than that.
You hear a lot of mixed opinions. I've done very thorough research, literature search. So I've compiled the key findings that I could find. Obviously, this is not an exhaustive list of the benefits of meditation, but for the sake of stating what I have found, I'll just list off the benefits for meditation broadly. So first off, you have the general benefits on improving mental well-being. So we know that meditation can prevent depressive relapse in depression patients. It can potentially reduce anxiety, depression, and pain in some clinical populations. It's been found that it can be useful for improving addiction recovery outcomes, almost twice as effective in smoking cessation in the study that I found. Could be effective in reducing traumatic stress compared to CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a very established method. It's potentially a beneficial intervention for stress and symptom relief in multiple sclerosis. Didn't think that was the case, but it's also something that I found. Generally, it induces relaxation responses if you just want to reduce stress. It's a helpful intervention for managing chronic pain with different neural mechanisms of brain regions that are affected that have been done for brain imaging studies. And yeah, it also improves our decision making and makes us more resistant to sunk cost bias. This is something that I want to talk about and add a little bit more focus on, because it was something that we found before starting our study, and we said it was something we looked forward to improving in our own lives. Sunk cost bias, or sunk cost fallacy, is basically our tendency to continue with an activity or a commitment, something that we have, when we've invested time and energy into it, even if we'd be better off leaving it.
Just stopping it at that point.
Basically. And why this is relevant, I think, when we consider our time management, the way I'll spend our times, sometimes we could be on a spiral of doing something that isn't maybe productive in the moment.
Let's say like gaming.
Yeah, gaming, scrolling on TikTok, something like that.
All these things that are kind of addictive.
Yes.
And then you know it's harmful for you, but you keep continuing to do it just because of all or nothing.
Yeah. All or nothing, like this black or white thinking, like you might be justifying it in your head, this very subtle thought that comes across that says, I've scrolled for 10 minutes, like I might as well just continue.
Or like a Friday night, like you're out and then you like only drink on Fridays. Let me just drink as much as I can.
It's like once you've started doing something that maybe you're not proud of, you just continue on forever.
Which you know deep down is not meant to be good for you.
Yeah. So I managed to find a study. We're going to, by the way, include references for all of these studies that we mentioned. But meditation has potentially the ability to reduce the impact of that. So in these so-called liminal moments where your decision sort of could shape your behavior for the next couple of hours or a very long duration of time, meditation can help you become, mindfulness meditation can help you become more mindful, take control of those moments.
More aware of it, and then hence try and stop it. And it will kind of be a break from the activity as well.
Yeah.
And then you'd be like, do I really want to continue this activity?
Yes.
Kind of help you break down that binge, whatever you're doing.
Yeah, so it helps you gain that awareness, just a bit more conscious when you're in that moment of making the decision.
But the making the decision to meditate while you're in that situation itself is something that I don't think is very expected. Like not many people would just like, for example, gaming. Like in the middle of gaming, you're like, okay, let me meditate for like 10 minutes to see if I want to continue gaming or not. I don't think that's very fair, but I guess what meditation does do is it, over the long term, if you like stay consistent with it, what it kind of helps you to do is to realize that you are binge gaming, you are binge drinking, you are binge eating. And this realization is what helps you be like, okay, I think it's time to go. Like, let me switch whatever I'm doing. And that's what meditation helps with. But of course, if someone is able to kind of switch from that, whatever they're doing, into meditation, that would be like a huge plus as well.
Yes.
If somebody has the ability and the discipline to do that, that would be a huge plus.
We've defined mindfulness meditation. I think it's just good to quickly touch on the idea of mindfulness as well. Is just, if you think about when you're meditating, what you're really doing is trying to not go down the train of thought that you would usually go down, but just focusing on whatever thought, your breath and everything, picking something to focus on and focusing on that. And you realize, we'll get into this in a lot more detail later, but when you meditate, you manage to pay a lot more attention to like stimuli that you don't usually pay attention to.
Yeah.
So every single time I've finished meditation, I finished like a session, I would just realize, like I open my eyes and I just see all of these things, right? So I'll talk more about this later, but mindfulness is essentially enabling you to pay more attention and just be more aware of everything. Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
We can move on to more benefits.
Biological changes for brain and body.
Yeah.
Well, it obviously there was tons of research that suggested that it reduces the aging of the brain. They had a study where they looked at patients who, I shouldn't say patients, participants who were long-term meditators.
Yes.
And their brain, structural wise, was much younger. And what they also found is that the people who meditated more, they had a larger hippocampi compared to participants who weren't meditators. And hippocampi is the area of your brain, hippocampus, which is strongly linked with memory, learning, and all sorts.
Yes.
So it might also kind of point in a direction of Alzheimer's and amnesia, and then how it might help improve the situation. For example, as us being young individuals, it's a good habit to have high hippocampus as big as possible, I guess. So being able to meditate in a sense is not for now, but it might also be beneficial down the line. It also showed to be reducing inflammation in the brain, which better activity overall in the sense. There was also reducing the activity of PCC and DMN. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I've made a note here just to elaborate on this. There are studies that have looked at the effects of meditation on a brain region called the posterior cingulate cortex, PCC, and that is very intimately connected with the default mode network, DMN. The default mode network is active when you're in a resting state and you're not focused on the external environment. And in that state, it's very easy for your mind to be wandering, for you to be daydreaming, for you to be doing, I think this is called self-referential thinking, where you're just thinking about the past and the future and like what you can do.
Basically any time but the present.
Yes.
You're talking about past experiences, your stories that you've made, or about the future, anxiety, anxiousness about what might happen.
Yeah. So these thoughts are sort of what you would naturally say. It's called default mode network. So sort of by default, this is the state that you'd be in. Meditation has been shown to reduce the activity of default mode network of the PCC, posterior cingulate cortex. So I guess in simple terms, it can help you focus on the present moment, which many people argue is what life is all about, right?
Yeah, sure.
And it's of course, it's not here to suppress. The idea of meditation isn't to suppress all like envisionments about the future or reflection about the past. It's just to momentarily tone down that aspect.
Those thoughts and processes.
Yeah.
Which even if anyone's tried meditating, we've tried it, and then you would know that while you're meditating, it's hard to keep those thoughts out of it.
Yes.
But your ability to bring it back to the present, think
Yes.
about your sensations, think about your surroundings, think about the moment, is what brings the value to meditation.
Yes.
Because your brain's just like a thinking machine.
Yeah.
Like just like all the time just active.
It doesn't
thinking
want
about
to
the
stop.
Past. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't want to stop. Even thinking about meditation itself is thinking for the brain.
Yes.
But the fact that it's about the present is what makes it special compared to just let it wandering about the past and the future.
Yep. Last thing to mention for the biological brain region part of this, we talk about it improves our ability to shift our attention to the present moment. This is actually done by improving the connectivity between the PCC and the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, which is another brain region, I think, responsible for cognition and thoughts. So I guess bringing your thought back to the present moment. I might have butchered the explanation, but I'll link the study if you want to check that out. It's in the description. Those are the broad benefits of meditation. Mental well-being, pain management, its potentially therapeutic benefits, biological changes. So a big range. We can then move on to details about how you should meditate, whether or not there are any guidelines, like when you should do it, how long you should do it, etc.
Yeah. Questions that everyone just wants to know.
Yeah.
What should I do? Well, starting with duration.
Yeah.
We looked at plenty of research papers, and what we basically found was there was very little difference to no difference between the duration of the meditation.
Yeah.
There was plenty of studies that looked at 15 minutes versus 20 minutes, 10 minutes versus 20 minutes, 10 minutes versus half an hour. And what they found was very, very little difference in terms of improvement of cognition. But then they also found that compared to participants who did not meditate, that mindfulness meditation did show an improvement.
Yes.
So to kind of summarize what this is all saying, it's saying that the duration is not as important as the act of meditation itself.
Yes.
So even doing it for 5 minutes is far more beneficial than not doing it.
Which is surprising, because I always thought the longer you meditate, the more impressive it is.
The more benefits you get.
Yeah.
I think it's like, with meditation, the results show very little difference.
Probably past the threshold, the benefits are not as big as just not doing
You're
it.
probably going to start stressing about how much time you're wasting on meditation.
If you're not used to it, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of time of day, you want to go on about the time of day and when you should meditate, what time of the day? Yeah.
So before we started this experiment, we also thought, should we meditate in the morning, in the evening, at a set point throughout the day, or like whatever? We found a couple of studies. There is one that suggests that there is no difference between morning and evening meditation. But they did, so this study from memory, it was within subjects or repeated measures. So they got participants to they collected baseline data of them not meditating and then got them to meditate for a set time period. And then they found morning compared to evening, virtually no difference. But meditating compared to not meditating was what made the difference. So just like what you said before.
Basically about the duration as well.
Yeah. Okay. So that was one study that suggested there was no difference. There was another study, which we're going to go into a bit more detail. It's a study where they analyzed data from a very prominent meditation app.
It's a study by Vincent Berardi.
Yes.
And then they looked at about 15,000 participants of app users.
Yeah.
And what they basically found, they looked at the date that the participants created the account and how much they used it throughout, I think it was 6 months' time. And what they found was that the participants who were more active in the mornings, there was like a 64% drop rate. I have the research up. I'll get the exact numbers. So the smallest decrease since they downloaded the app was 63.4% for morning, whereas it was 67.8 to 74.5% for other times.
Yeah.
So that means the participants who were meditating actively in the morning were less likely to delete the app or become inactive users of the app compared to who meditated at night or during the evening. And do you want to continue with the rest and how those participants stayed on the app with their short-term engagement? And actually, I have it open, so I might as well go through it in more detail. Okay, so what they also found was that the app users in the morning were likely to stay on the app for a longer period of time compared to individuals who were on the app during the night or the evening. So basically, meditation duration was higher for people who meditated in the morning compared to people who meditated at night or during the evening.
Yep. Okay, so just with the point that people who meditated in the morning were able to show more longevity in their meditation habit, found in this study. The authors also noted that this was consistent with the other studies in the literature that found morning routines and circadian rhythms make the morning an ideal time to build new habits. So this could be meditation, or it could be anything from working out or like stretching, going for a walk, anything.
True. Right? Any habit that you could form during the morning.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think anecdotally we'll discuss this later as well, but just to put that as a point, it's also in the literature. That's basically it for everything we have to say about the good side of meditation, but meditation doesn't go without any critiques. We know that mindfulness isn't universally defined the same way in all studies. So the terms that we've been using, mindfulness meditation obviously can span mindfulness meditation and other types of meditation, as we covered. So not every single study defines it the same way. And likewise, the methodology that investigates these are also not standardized. So, the duration isn't standardized, time of day isn't standardized. I know we talked about studies that show there isn't a massive difference, but there can be a very big variance in how different studies design their studies.
And like the age of the participants themselves.
Yes.
Or any controls for them, such as like food, the exercises, like sleep. All these also play a very, very huge factor.
Definitely.
In our daily lives.
Yeah. So it's important to acknowledge that these potentially extraneous variables do exist, and whenever we make a claim about meditation, we probably wanted to go into the original resources ourselves and think, how much can we really generalize this? Because meditation is not something that's always been researched this much. So it's a growing field of research.
It's relatively new.
Yeah. So we should definitely be monitoring the new studies that come out, because sometimes studies find that there is no difference between meditating and no meditation for some measures. Yeah. So that's just something that's important to keep in mind. So keep an open mind. Meditation could be good, but maybe it's not.
Yeah. If you want to think about it, you can think about like someone who stays in bed all day and meditates for 10 minutes compared to a person who wakes up in the morning, works out, eats well, sleeps at a reasonable time, and also meditates 10 minutes. So like there's a very, very clear difference between these two individuals, and you can't really generalize based on these samples. So it would be good for further research to control for these all aspects of the lifestyles, and then you can really cut down the differences of being meditation. Is it the meditation that causes the difference, or are there other stuff that might be causing it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great example. We need to monitor for studies that definitely control for the variables a lot more. Now we can get a bit more into our experiment. Okay. So before we began this experiment, we did a quick literature search. We can talk about how it anticipated meditation to help us specifically. So not everything that we've mentioned so far obviously is relevant, especially for us.
And it's hard to measure. I can't really go out of my way to measure my hippocampus by myself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So we run the experiment on a budget, but we do have our own budget. No budget, just free experiment, funded by ourselves. We pinpointed 3 broad measures that we expected maybe to improve, we hoped would improve. And they are awareness, which is, in other words, mindfulness, right? Mindfulness of our thoughts, our feelings, and our behavior, which would lead us to improve our decision making and, choose to not be scrolling on our phones and study instead of something like that. The second one is reduce stress. So we should mention we started this experiment just as our semester started.
That's right.
We are students, so
this just would be rising. So we're hoping kind of counterbalances that stress.
That's definitely another point there. And the last one is attention span. So it kind of ties closely with the mindfulness and awareness point, but elongating our attention span, making sure we can focus for longer on whatever task that we need to. So those are the 3: awareness, reducing stress, and attention span. We wanted to really sort of pay close attention in our experiment. And then we can get it now I guess we can dive into exactly how, all the details about our experiment.
Okay, yeah, all right. Do you want to kick stuff with your experiences, or do you want me to?
Let's just make sure that all the details are covered. Okay. So
about the experiment?
About the experiment. Okay. So we've got a sample size of 2, which is us. N equals 2. Needed to put that out there. What we did was a non-guided meditation. We did it for 13 minutes every day for a 3-week period. So 21 days. The timing for me was almost always in the morning. There were 2 days I had to do it at night because I missed it in the morning. But 19 days out of 21, I was able to do it as part of my morning routine. For you, it was a bit more like whenever you had time. Yeah.
Because It's for me, like, I find it relatively hard.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I have to get up very early in the morning.
Yeah.
And then it's just hectic. So it's just better to put it on my calendar where I know I have a gap, and that would help me. And it kind of like helped me with finding out where works the best for me.
Yeah.
What time of the day kind of helped me with my, whether was it studies or was it falling asleep or like winding down just before going to bed.
Yeah.
Or getting my day started. So all these different stuff, which I can talk about for a little bit as well, but just setting the basics for it. Yours was pretty much set in the morning, whereas mine was variable throughout the day.
Yep, and I think that's pretty reasonable. Everybody obviously has different commitments that they've got to attend to, so it's not always realistic to do meditation at the exact same time. Even for me, I had to miss 2 days. So that's for the timing. The location, I did it in basically the same place every single time.
Really?
Yeah.
Mine was again variable. Sometimes because sometimes I have to be at uni very early on, so I would just be doing it at uni or like on my bed or on my desk.
Yeah.
Again, very variable compared to you, I guess.
Okay. Is that all we had to cover, or is there any other details about the experiment? Like,
I think that's it. 3 weeks, 13 minutes. And then you did it in the morning. I did it in variable times of the day.
Okay.
I think that was it. And then the fact that it was non-guided.
Yes. Okay. So that covers basically the essential details of our experiment.
And also the fact that we set a timer. I think you did it on your phone for 13 minutes.
On my phone or on my watch.
On your watch. Yeah. I did it primarily on my watch, so I would set 13 minutes.
Yeah.
And then once that reaches, because we had our eyes closed,
yes.
so we had no idea of the time.
Yeah.
So once the 13 minutes hit, my watch just kind of vibrated, and I would know kids' time.
Yeah. So same thing with me, vibration or alarm, whichever it may be. Yeah. And then that was that. I will present some objective data, if you may.
Okay, go for it.
So today I did some data analysis, as you know. I
don't know about
let me explain what I did, and then we'll see if there's any significance to it. So before the experiment, I hypothesized that meditation could reduce my heart rate or prevent the increase of my heart rate that I would expect at the start of my university semesters. So that's something that I never really put to the test or never even like analyzed, like literally until today. So for a bit of context, we're second year students. Right now we're in second year semester 2. So we've had 4 starts to the semester.
That's right.
I analyzed my heart rate data collected from my watch, which has been tracking my heart rate for as long as I know. And I can say that every single time. So I looked at the 4-week period before the first week of semester, and then I looked at the 4-week period after the first week of semester. Right. So you get a very clear before and after comparison.
Okay.
Right. And on all 4 occasions of the semester starting, my heart rate increases. The average in the 4-week periods.
Very marginal increase.
I'll get to that.
Okay.
But it's a reliable increase. It didn't decrease, right?
Okay.
Every single time it increased. So from last year's semester 1, it was a plus 0.1.
That is so little.
It's so little.
That's
It's
so
the smallest one, to be fair. 0.1 beats per minute increase. And then it went to 0.6 the following semester, 2.2 the semester after that, which was last semester. And then this semester, 0.9. So I agree with you, very marginal increases. I expected meditation to at least reduce the extent it would increase.
Yeah.
Turns out it wasn't the case. I think it's only fair because plenty of other things happen in life. My exercise varied, my diet varied, so many variables at hand.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
like they play like a much more pivotal role in terms of your heart rate.
Absolutely.
Than meditation, perhaps, or perhaps didn't meditate it for long enough, like consistency wise.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if you had started meditating 4 weeks beforehand, you might have seen a bit of a more difference.
Yep.
But I guess that was your experience with your analysis of your heart rate.
I tried to do analysis. I mean, no difference is still a finding.
That's true. That's true.
I just if anyone expects meditation to lower their heart rate, this is n equals 1 here. Like it didn't really do anything for me, but that's just heart rate. Of course, there are other benefits and things that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the only thing objective that we really had. Sleep.
It's very hard to measure objective data when it comes to meditation. It's more about subjective reporting, your feeling, how your emotions are on a scale of 1 to 10.
Like as you said, we don't have like the brain imaging technology we have. So
to be able to record
heart rate is the best we can do if we want to do that.
Exactly.
We can go into the subjective though.
We could go into the subjective.
Yep.
Speaking of subjective, me personally, since I did it in variable times of the day, I also had variable subjective findings.
Okay.
I'll start with morning and then progressively talk just before bed.
Sure.
Or just before I fall asleep. So if I was to do it in the morning, I think I did it in a couple of mornings, not every morning, because I'll get into it. Yep. I would wake up in the morning and then I'm like, I didn't really want to get out of bed, so I was like, I think it's good to meditate. I would drink some water and then I would close my eyes again for 30 minutes, put on my watch, but I would kind of sit up in my bed.
Okay.
So I don't fall back asleep.
Fair enough.
So, but then what I did find out that I was really, really sleepy. Like it was almost putting me back to sleep. Like there was like one morning that I felt like I started dreaming on my thoughts. Like what I was thinking about, I think like they turned into dreams for a second.
Yeah.
And then I came back to reality. So I was like, okay, maybe not in the morning exactly. This would happen around like 7 a.m. ish.
Yeah.
If it was to happen. Or sometimes I did it like after having breakfast. I'll just come back to my room after I've eaten, sit down for 30 minutes just before I get started my work. With that one, I feel like very reasonable time. Probably did not fall asleep. I was very ready to get started on my day, very refreshed.
Yeah.
Set me up in the right mindset to start my work. And the time I would do it maybe during mid-afternoon, like around 12, around 11.
Yeah.
Would be between my study breaks or like before attending classes or anything.
Yeah.
And what that I felt like helped me to like kind of have a good break, take off my focus out of my studies, focus on my body, focus on my sensations, and clear up my mind, and then go back to watching my lectures or doing my rest of my studies.
Yes.
I feel like that was also a really, really good time. If I was to recommend it to anyone who's a student that studies, I would say definitely try. Like it doesn't have to be like long, maybe like 5 minutes, 3 minutes between your study breaks. Really, really helped me out, I would say. Most of the other times would be before sleeping, before reading in my bed. Yeah. I would meditate for 30 minutes, and what I found with that was it kind of helped me because I would turn off my phone before I start reading.
Yes.
So at that point, if I was to meditate, I would have turned off my phone and then started meditating, and that just kind of helped me unwind, get settled in for bed. Okay. Relax. It had more of a relaxation effect on me.
And this was right before bed.
And then this was before reading, and then I would go to sleep. And there would be also times where I'm kind of late for bed, so I would skip the reading part and then I would just meditate while laying down. Yeah. And in this case scenario, it just like helped me ease to sleep, which was also really nice.
Did you find during this that when it was in the evening, because meditation, the way we do it, obviously you're focusing on you're trying to focus on something. Did you find that was more difficult?
It was because I felt like I was falling asleep at some times. Which for 30 minutes, it might sound like a short time, but while you meditate, it is long. Yes. And then for you to keep having your focus broken down by like these random thoughts and be bringing it back can be a little bit frustrating. Yeah. But I did feel like I was getting a bit more tired. What am I trying to say? More tired-y, if that's not even a word, but more tired. Yeah. If it was like before bed, which is a good thing.
If it helped you sleep, I mean, it's definitely not a bad thing.
What about you? How did you find out? Because you obviously formed a habit meditating in the morning. Yeah. How was the benefits of that, you realize?
Not as much variety for me. I guess I'll quickly break down my morning routine. I'd wake up, I'd go to the toilet, weigh myself, put on my clothes, I'd go to my study. Then in theory, I'm supposed to be journaling, and then right after I'm done, I should be like putting my headspace into meditation. Like I'd get my phone or my watch, whichever one I was recording my time on. I'd start the timer, and then I would just meditate for 13 minutes, non-guided. Obviously, not every single day plays out the exact same way, but it was part of my morning routine for every day. And then 30 minutes later, I'm done. I do my 3 deep breaths at the end. I slowly open my eyes, and then become bombarded with all this sensory information. I feel a really heavy sense of gratitude after I open my eyes.
Same.
I just this is a really weird thing, really weird detail, right? Every single time right after I open my eyes, I just say out loud to myself, like, we take our vision for granted. Because I just say that same phrase every time, because you're going from seeing nothing to seeing all this beautiful stimuli in your environment. So
that is so true. We should be a lot more grateful about our bodies, about our vision.
Especially for our senses, our vision, our hearing, everything. Meditation really solidified that experience for me. Having said that, I only did it in the morning. I can talk about 2 times. I was sort of occupied in the morning, so I had to do it the evening that day. Same spot, same procedure and everything. I think because I had a consistent sleep schedule, it didn't really put me to sleep necessarily. I found it to be a better experience in the morning, personally. Maybe just because it was habit at that point. But yeah, it was a really nice way to start my day. So that's, I guess, what I have to comment about the timing. I will say, after the experiment finished, right? So since finishing this podcast,
which has been a week and a half.
But around a week and a half. There's something I'll mention towards the end, but I have decided instead of 13 minutes, I'm going to do a 6-minute meditation instead, just because it fits in my schedule better.
Really? I've decided to do 5 minutes in between my study breaks. So I do 25 minutes studying, 5 minutes break, and then I decided in 5 minutes break, I'll just do meditation.
That's a very solid way to move on.
So 6 minutes interesting though. Why 6 minutes?
Why do we do 13? Maybe we should talk about that.
Okay.
I think I can't remember the source, but we got from somewhere that 12-minute meditation was enough to yield whatever benefits. There was a study or 2 or something on that, and we decided why not just
do 13 minutes to be sure we get all the benefits.
To be sure, just to be idiosyncratic, do our own thing, right? That's why we chose 13. Now, had we done 12 or 11 or 14, don't think it matters that much. But yeah, I don't know. If I don't want to do 5. 5 is so generic, you know.
5 is so generic, all right.
Well, just 6.
Calling me generic.
But yeah, maybe I just want to be special.
You just have to. You are very special.
Thank you.
No, I'm checking.
Yeah. So 6-minute meditation for me moving forward. It just fits with my morning routine time block perfectly. I want to say the days that I didn't meditate, and this is not it's a correlation, not a causation, but the days I didn't meditate following the experiment, I did find my day was a bit less structured, and I found myself more vulnerable to the liminal moments, not taking control of them, and just
could be because since it's part of your habit, maybe because you didn't get on with your habit properly, that just set up the day.
I thought of that, and I think that's probably the explanation. But so again, correlation or causation, but I find on days that I meditate, I'm so much more productive. I'm just in control of my time management. And then what else do I want to say? Maybe I'll touch on my history of meditation. So it's not something that I really got into. I probably first properly started doing it in 2020 lockdown for COVID.
Mine would have been 2022 during year 12 because I was so stressed. I was I need something to help me.
I get that motivation, to be honest. But yeah, in lockdown it was the first time I tried to do it. I just thought I have all this time, might as well build a routine for myself. So that was my first exposure to meditation. I started off starting off with 1 minute, right? And then I said I'm just going to work my way up to whenever I'm comfortable. So I went 1 minute, 1:15, 1:30, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way until maybe 10 minutes. I made that into a habit, also in the morning. This was 4 years ago, and then I must have not done a really good job because in my 10-minute meditations, I just found my mind wandering all the time. And I had these repetitive thoughts of like, what if I forgot to press the timer and I'm actually like 20 minutes in. So that happened for this experiment like once or twice as well.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's like a really, I don't know. It's like this anxiety because if you didn't press it, you're going to be here just like stupidly breathing
forever.
Yeah.
I'm forever bound to this.
Yeah. So I have to I make it a point to I really press it.
You really press it.
Just so I'm not like
pressing
doubting
it
myself.
strongly with good force.
Yeah. I see the timer clicking, but then I can close my eyes. But then that was back in the day, and then that like habit just died off at some point in that year, and it maybe came back like for a little bit a year later. But then I was just meditating on and off. Like I'd meditate for like 3 days in a row and then go like 3 weeks without doing it. And yeah, so I was not consistently meditating at all before this experiment, which is why I said, why not like
try it out again.
Yeah, bring this habit back.
Yeah, I mean, same with you. But year 12, I was consistent with it.
Yeah.
Like you were in 2020.
Yeah.
But after year 12 kind of ended, or like I feel like even during the exams I would meditate because we used to catch the same bus.
Yeah.
And before on my train, before I catch the bus, I would meditate on the train just to wind down a little bit.
That's nice.
And I feel like it kind of stopped meditating after year 12 finished.
Yeah.
So I don't think I've meditated actively. Maybe like once or twice every here and there.
Yeah, like same.
But
same as me.
since 2022, basically hadn't meditated much. But this was a really good refresher.
Yeah.
To kind of implement the meditation back into my
I agree with that.
habits. Yeah. So I'm kind of happy we did this.
Yeah.
It reminded me how much it helps me.
Yeah. I can also say I've tinkered with guided meditations in the past. Usually the guided ones I've listened to are all like just 5 minutes. They're not really extensive. Like you mentioned in the beginning, I do find it helps, like it guides me. It tells me what I'm meant to be thinking about, whatever, like not thinking about, like, letting thoughts go, or like, take a deep breath and then another one and another one. That process is nice in the sense that you don't get lost in your thoughts.
That's right. It brings you back when you get pulled out.
Definitely. But because I've had the experience of trying non-guided meditation in the past for the experiment, which is sort of, obviously you have as well, which is why we said, okay, let's just try not meditating. Not using guided. Yeah. Yep.
Can we do a shout out for an app though?
Yeah.
This app, I found out about it in year 12. I mean, most people who have already meditated before, you would know about Headspace.
Yes.
Very popular. What's the other popular one?
Like Calm? Is it Calm?
Calm, yeah. Calm and Headspace, probably the most popular ones.
Yeah.
But there's an app called Smiling Mind.
Yes.
And this is developed by Australian psychologists. And I use this app because it has categories for like young people, like age 9 to 12-ish. It has for teenagers, it has for adults, it has for people undergoing certain types of stresses.
Yeah.
It has for exercise. It has all different types and it's completely free. Whereas like Headspace and Calm, I think like they have
paid like
they
versions.
have subscription versions for it, and then like they have ads as well. Whereas Smiling Mind, completely free, ad free. I just love a Smiling Mind. We could put the link.
Yeah, let's put the link. I don't have personal experience using the app, but it definitely sounds like something I would want to try.
It's Australian developed purposely to help people.
Yeah.
So that's that.
Yep.
Other than that, is there anything else we need to mention?
I can talk about something that I noted down during my experiment.
Okay.
So at around 1 week in, I left this note for myself. So remember earlier I talked about how, default mode network, you get like self-referential thoughts.
Yeah.
I sort of found a pattern of the thoughts that would pop into my head.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm not trying to engage, but these are the thoughts that come up. So I would think about things such as I would schedule things in my head, like what times I'm meant to be doing what tasks for today and this week. I was thinking about like, okay, if someone messaged me, if I should reply to them, what I should reply with.
I hope they were my texts.
Yeah. I was also recounting past experiences. If something like cool happened in the past 24 hours, or if something that I was looking forward to was going to happen in the next day, maybe I'll start like thinking about, okay, like how's this going to go? And this is kind of meta, but I was thinking about this very conversation that we're going to be having, like what I'm going to be saying. So a deep dive into my psyche, I guess. I
don't think I noticed any specific pattern with my thoughts.
Did you not?
Probably the most common ones about my during the day.
Yeah.
So what will be happening that day specifically.
Yeah, that one I understand.
So in the future, not much about our meditation discussion. I will think about like the benefits and what sort of stuff we could be talking about.
Yeah.
But not too in depth. And then just random thoughts. I would say, since I was thinking about my like the day, it's more future based than past based. But if it was past based, I'd be like, what could have changed?
Yeah.
So stuff like that. Like you think back at like your classes and you're like, that was cool. Like what you could.
Oh yeah, I get that.
But anyways, nothing that I really noticed. But that's that. Maybe because I did it in variable times of the day as well.
It's possible, yeah, because you're missing that routine, maybe. I know when I was meditating, like I'd be in the flow and I'm trying to focus on my breathing, like, and everything, like my heart rate, the sensations of every part of my body. And that would go well for, a bit. And then inevitably a thought just comes in.
Right.
And
which is perfectly
it's obviously perfectly normal, but in the moment I'm sort of like, I feel the sense of disappointment. Like I wish I just continued focusing.
Oh yeah, that's the frustration.
Yeah.
But it's, we just have to realize it's normal. Like the brain wants it to be wondering about the past and the future.
I think proper mindfulness meditation, it should be definitely without judgment. Like you're accepting whatever thoughts are coming in. But I didn't manage to always do that. So when a thought would come in, I'd get disappointed. I'd think, like, I'll try and remind myself, okay, like what meditation is supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's meant to be a thought comes and it goes. A thought comes and it goes.
Yeah.
And just go back to my breathing. And that might have been like a mental cue or a trigger for me to think about meditation. And then I'm just, again, thinking about this conversation. Like I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to say in the podcast that I'm going to do? I'm going to talk about this and this and this.
I feel like the disappointment and the frustration comes from the fact that we're disappointed in our attention span.
Yeah.
The fact that we can't focus for a certain amount of time, that's what's disappointing. It's not the fact that we're failing at meditation, but rather that we can't focus for X amount of time.
Yeah.
And that in itself is disappointing. And partially not our fault. It's all the social media, the society that's kind of...
And just the way we're wired as well. Like our brain doesn't want to stop thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's okay to be disappointed and frustrated. You just have to realize that, come to acceptance with the fact that it's normal.
Definitely. Okay. So going back to the benefits that we were actively monitoring for in this experiment, that is being more aware and mindful, reducing our stress and improving attention span. I want to sort of go into how it has improved our life in general. Okay. So we know it coincided with uni starting, the semester starting, but I just thought I'd make the point that when I look through my calendar and everything I have on my calendar, in this period that I meditated for, I had one of the most productive phases that I've in my life.
Oh,
basically.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't wasting a lot of. Usually, I'd waste time here and there, just time that I didn't ask for to be spent, looking at YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
And there wasn't much of that when I was meditating. I don't know if it's the effect of meditation or the fact that I've just decided to manage my time better.
It could be the fact that other factors like Premier League. I know you have so maybe.
No, it's not even to do with that, because usually I'm just really distractible, even in the holiday period. Mm-hmm. Usually if you give me enough time, I'd find a way to waste a good 2 hours of my day. Okay. But that wasn't the case. And I guess I'll talk quickly academically. This, for the first time maybe so far in my uni semester, have I been 4 or 5 weeks in, and all my assignments are I'm on track doing all of them. I've watched all my lectures, done all my notes. I'm kind of on track with everything.
That's pretty
and
good.
that comes back to good time management. And I want to attribute some of that to meditation, maybe improving my decision making.
That is fair enough.
I know you've always sort of been like on top of your work most of the time. So have you found a similar effect, like generally with meditation?
Honestly, nothing that I can really pinpoint.
Okay.
Because with my course, it's very full on. So if you fall behind, it's very difficult to catch up.
Yeah.
Just because of how the assignments are being put in. So if you have an assignment that is a test, it has the content of everything up until then. So you have to be on top to be able to revise for it. But meditation wise, what I can say is this is again not a causation, more of a correlation.
Yeah.
I have started to sleep much earlier.
Okay.
I used to sleep around 11, 12, wake up around 7, 8.
Yeah.
But now I'm sleeping, this has been like almost 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
Which partially was like towards the end of our meditation experiment, where I started to sleep 9:30, wake up early in the day.
Yeah.
Around 5:50, 6 a.m. And what this has allowed me to do, like you said, with the time management, I find myself having a lot more time in the morning.
Okay.
And not spending time in bed or just getting out of it immediately. I feel like I've been more kind of productive in terms of gym.
Okay.
Be more consistent, hitting it about 5 to 6 times a week.
Yeah.
Which is my ideal, whereas before this, it was like more like twice a week, 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Part of it, I want to give it to meditation as well, because doing meditation, not that I was doing this throughout the meditation experiment, but towards the end, I was like, okay, I can see how important my habits are.
Yeah.
And how much of an effect they play. So let me change a couple of stuff. And it didn't directly cause this, but it made me realize the benefits that I can get out of my habits.
Do you think if we started the semester without doing any meditation at all, it would have gone any worse?
Any worse?
Or not as well?
I can't really pinpoint it. I feel like my sleep schedule, my exercise, my diet play a much more essential role than meditation. But what I can say for sure is that instead of spending my breaks between my studies on such things like social media, it's so much better to be spending it on meditation. Because in social media, I get distracted, I get pulled into it. 5 minutes, I press another extra 5 minutes. Whereas with meditation, done, back into studying. That's one thing I can say confidently about meditation that did help me with.
Yeah.
But in terms of my workload and time management, can't say it for sure, but it did help me to develop habits that I would prefer to have, such as sleeping early, getting up early.
There's an argument to be had that it's not meditation that necessarily improves your life, but gaining that mindful awareness helps you to make those dietary exercise choices. So obviously we're not saying it's all meditation, but maybe there is the likelihood that if we didn't meditate, we wouldn't be as consistent with choosing to do these things. Maybe for me, because I had it, so I consistently did it in the morning, right? I want to highlight the fact that it's possible that because for this experiment, like I want to do it properly, right? I didn't want to say we're going to do 13 minutes meditation every day and then just not do it, like a skip a day or anything. So I wanted to stay consistent for the sake of this experiment. Maybe as a like byproduct of that, I actually managed to have a really consistent morning routine and hence a very consistent sleep schedule, which I can say I adhere to.
I feel very the same.
Yeah. So having like, because sometimes when I wake up in the morning, this was before the experiment, sometimes I would want to just think, I don't want to do my usual morning routine today. Like I just want to stay in bed, look at YouTube. Like not all the time, but that would be like a likelihood. But in this experiment, it was basically never the case. I would just, I'd wake up and I think, like maybe I'm tempted to watch YouTube, but then at the same time, I'm doing this experiment for our channel. So I'm just going to get out.
It's kind of like the all or nothing hypothesis again. Like once you start doing like meditation, you're like, okay, I've already committed to this positive thing. I might as well commit to all other my positive things.
That's like the good side of the all or nothing. Like you've got one thing that you've done right. You might as well just do everything right?
Do everything right, exactly. That I feel like what kind of made a switch in me as well, that maybe I need to change my sleep schedule again. And then having that positive thing going, it helps you put you in the right track. Whereas if you, for example, were to skip the meditation, you'd be like, okay, if I already skip meditation, I might as well skip this, and I might
exactly. I felt some of that after the experiment, because I had this free time, like I didn't have to meditate for 13 minutes. Maybe I could just afford that little bit of morning routine time to do something else, and then that just opens the door for like
for distractions, for other things to jump in and take all the time away. I get that. So it does help to set a good foundation for your day if you were to do it in the morning, or to help you unwind, relax if you were to do it towards the night.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's summarize everything that we've talked about today, from the scientific findings to our own experiences. We'll start with the broad benefits that the scientific literature has provided us with meditation. So things from mental well-being, like it having therapeutic benefits for preventing depressive relapses, helping with traumatic stress, and etc. There's so much more. Biological changes for our brain and our body. It can slow down the aging of our brain, reduce inflammation, change the neural networks in our brains that help us, I guess, prevent us from daydreaming and spiraling into trains of thoughts. Yeah, so the posterior cingulate cortex default mode network, those are the biological changes.
Also increase, one of the research shows increased hippocampal area in the brain compared to people who didn't meditate.
Yeah. With the specifics of, I guess, how to meditate, there is not a very clear consensus about how long you should meditate for. It's mainly any form of meditation is better than no meditation, it seems to suggest. Similar finding with time of the day, morning or evening, not a significant difference, but if you do it in the morning, based on the study that we found, there is a greater likelihood that you would retain this habit of meditating, and you spend a longer time meditating as well. Having said that, we want to emphasize again, meditation is a growing field of research. It's not universally defined the same way in all the studies, and the methods of the studies that investigate meditation isn't always the same. So we should probably be careful whenever we want to make any generalizations about meditation. So look into the primary studies, see how they did their experiment, look at their population, and make your own generalizations, have your own takeaways. And yeah, keep an eye out for new research that comes out for meditation. For our experiment, we expected it to improve our mindful awareness, improve our decision making, reduce our stress, and improve our attention span. Didn't have a lot of measures for that, but for what I could find for my heart rate, nothing significant, and subjectively, quite a lot of improvements, most of which is correlational, but we can find a general positive influence on our lives. Became more mindful, probably made better decisions. A fair bit of that we will attribute to our meditation experiment that we did for 3 weeks. And what we take away, well, personally for me, I've decided to continue meditating because I find it's beneficial for my life. But instead of doing a 13-minute meditation, I'm going to move to a 6-minute meditation. And for you, it's 5-minute. I've chosen 6-minute because I want to be special. But yeah. And for people listening to this, if you do already meditate, or you know something else that we haven't mentioned that is proven in the scientific literature, please do comment below. Let us know what we have missed, because we definitely missed something. And we did our best, but we'd always want to see more studies, interesting studies that prove more benefits for meditation. If you're somebody who hasn't meditated before or haven't done so consistently, and listening this by chance motivated you to meditate, we fully encourage it. We think it's got great physical, mental benefits. Again, there's so much that I didn't mention, but it can improve your life in so many ways. And it can help you make better decisions, can make you a kinder person, more mindful, more grateful for what you have. And yeah.
Perfect. Well, that brings us to the end of our podcast about meditation, its benefits, and how I experimented with it. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the podcast, and subscribe for more upcoming experiments and podcasts. Thank you.